It's time to reveal a national scandal. British taxpayers are sending billions of pounds abroad to pointless woke projects while we're told there's a £22 billion black hole. What I'm about to tell you paints a picture of, in my view, government-sponsored fraud, corruption and waste that spans decades. Are you ready? You sent £1.4 billion to refurbish the High Commission in Nairobi. This included replacing lighting and their fire alarms. Does that sound like value for money to you? You spent £15.5 million to set up climate-smart jobs in Uganda. There is 133 grand to monitor the Afghan Taliban's narcotics ban, £50,000 to study the health of shrimps in Bangladesh. You sent 25 million quid to support green urban growth in Somalia. Shall we just check with Somalia, do we think, and see how they're getting on with your money?
Somalia's president says the death toll has risen to at least 100 after 2 car bombs hit the capital, Mogadishu.
I mean, what are they going to do with that? Fight the jihadis off by planting a few trees? Are they? It's 25 million quid's worth of your money that's just been blown up, isn't it? You sent 15 brand new electric Porsche sports cars to Albania so they could use them for their prison service. Then there's 22.5 million on green growth in Nepal. Nepal. I mean, if only there was more, I don't know, rural landscape in Nepal. Yep, I think we can all agree that we should all pay our fair share towards green growth over there. £264,000 combating disinformation in Ethiopia. I mean, what will they discover there? Maybe there wasn't a famine. You know, maybe it was all just a big con by Oxfam, although to be fair, it wouldn't be the worst thing Oxfam has done. And then there's 8.6 million quid supporting renewable energy in Indonesia. Well, let's look a little bit closer to home now, shall we? Whilst pensioners freeze to death, people can't afford to have kids or afford to live in a squalid bedsit in Slough, we are handing over tens of millions of pounds to so-called academics to study meaningless tosh. The government spent 200 grand researching the impacts of Star Wars on the environment. 502 winter fuel payments for pensioners, that would be, roughly. 194k researching gay pig masculinities, which resulted in a film called Oink, which I am told by my producers I am not allowed to show you on account of the fact that it's far too graphic. So you spent 200 grand to not be able to see this stuff. Anyway, that's money well spent, isn't it? £407,000 researching gender-based and racialised violence in Ecuador. £311,000 so the University of Leicester can research indigenous film ecologies in India. 842 grand researching the Europe that gay porn built. Fantastic. So I present this show to you tonight, sitting on the foundations of gay porn. Remarkable, isn't it? And then there's the money that gets gobbled up by the public sector. You paid 19.5 million quid for Transport for London to move office. And then you paid 60 million quid so their staff can get into work even when the transport system is disrupted. Now, forgive me, but are they not the ones causing that disruption? We spent £1 billion for asylum accommodation and support in the northwest of England. So, again, can you imagine what places like Bolton or Blackpool or Bootle could do with 1 billion quid if we helped to regenerate their local areas? No, I mean, it goes entirely towards looking after illegals instead. And then you found, well done, you found the money to donate 73 million quid for translation services for the NHS. So people who can't be bothered to learn our language can get the taxpayer-funded healthcare that they deserve. All of that is shocking. But imagine what we don't know about. The NHS had a £10.6 billion funding boost when Labour came to power. They've said it's just been totally swallowed up. It's gone, with no real results. And how? Why? Where's it all gone? There has to be a reckoning. I mean, just look at what Elon Musk and Trump are doing with the Department for Government Efficiency over there in the States. British taxpayers should demand no more money sent abroad for things like Bangladeshi shrimp studies. No more money so some artist with blue hair and a confused sexuality can examine Europe's gay porn scene. And a complete ruthless audit of all of our public institutions. I mean, don't let this government tell you that Britain is skint and your taxes need to go up, well, we're sending money to everyone else. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We've got columnist Esther Krakow, political commentator Jonathan Liss, and Tory MP for Tatton Esther McVeigh. Esther McVeigh, I will start with you because this isn't a Labour thing. I mean, this has been going on for a very, very long time. You know, why should taxpayers study Bangladeshi shrimps?
Well, I don't think they should. But I'd also say before any country gives money away in foreign aid, I'd say, well, can you afford it? And what are the countries of the priorities of a country? And I give an example, farming at the moment. We can't afford, as I'd say, to look after our farmers in a correct way. We're taxing them by the tune of £500 million a year, and yet we've decided to give £500 million to farmers overseas. So I'd say it's not right, is it? So that isn't getting your priorities right. If you can't look after your own farmers, why do you think you can look at after those overseas? And equally, we're in debt. So if somebody was in debt, you had a friend and they said, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to give money to charity, but I can't afford it myself. I'm in debt. You'd say, crazy. Well, we're doing the same things. Of course you can't do. You've got to prioritise your
But it's also obviously not going to where it said it's going. Now, I'm sorry, £1.5 billion for the High Commission in Nairobi, I think it was. I mean, that's not.
Well, I don't know why it cost that much, but I do think that is a responsibility of the British government. And I do think
£1.5 billion though, Esther.
Yes, but that being said, I do think the British government. You remember, the British government has a responsibility to protect us within and outside of our borders. So they should be doing more to help Brits overseas. However, £1.5 billion to refurbish a building is a bit much.
I mean, it's just mad.
But I think the bigger point here is, I mean, you can always find
Somalia. Well, sorry, but why green growth in Somalia? £25 million. I mean, isn't it? Yeah. They're not currently fighting Al-Shabaab.
We're also talking about correct oversight of the spend there.
Yeah.
So it's not just we can't, we shouldn't, what are we doing with that? But actually, who's having the oversight of what you are spending?
Yeah. I mean, I think what you always find ridiculous sort of stories like this where we spend money where we really shouldn't, and of course that should be cut. But I think even if we manage to cut all the wasteful spending, our welfare bill is too high. We have too many people living off the state. We don't have a productive enough economy. We have an aging population that we're not finding a way to provide for. We have young people that are increasingly fed up with this country. I mean, the real issue is we're just living beyond our means. This is just scratching the surface.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you add it all up, I mean,
14 billion ain't scratching the surface. That's a significant amount in total.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, you know, what's your view? Let's stick with the money going abroad first. I mean, do you seriously think that we have a responsibility as a country to look at things like £22.5 million for green growth in Nepal?
Well, first of all, I literally can't believe that 1.5 billion figure. So I'll have to. I mean, I want to see the figure myself. But I've never. I mean, that sounds like, you know, the O2 arena costs, you know, about that much. I don't see how an embassy could ever cost that much to be refurbished. But moving on from that,
I imagine it's mainly the security measures.
Okay, I mean, look, see, the UK. It's important to have embassies and high commissions abroad, and it's important to make sure they're secure. And I think that also feeds into the broader point, which Donald Trump is singularly failing to address in his systemic sort of closure, or his full attempt to sort of blanket close US aid, which is that this, even by Donald Trump's stated interests and by right-wing people in this country, also people who want to project British power, even within those confines, aid is a very, very useful tool. Even if you don't care about helping the poorest, most vulnerable people in the world, and the bulk of the aid budget does go to those people, by the way, even if you don't care about that, it's useful for that phrase which you might like or hate, soft power or smart power, to project Britain's interests abroad.
I mean, monitoring the Taliban's narcotics ban, has that sorted us out, has it?
I think that would actually be quite. I think that would actually be quite a useful thing to be doing.
Look, some of us look at aid in a different way, and I'd be saying, how do we help countries not to be requiring aid, but actually can trade and can earn more money?
Those things can be true.
So that's what I do, because I've never seen the International Department ever say, well, what we're going to do, we're going to make this country so self-sufficient, they won't need aid anymore. No, it's aid every year without a platform to go to. How do we trade better and enable them to look after them?
So that's always been part of the policy.
This is probably going to be controversial. I don't even think that's Britain's responsibility. All aid should be tied to what's in the best interest of Britain. I'm sorry, yes, it would be helpful to give aid so that you don't have like sort of outbreaks of diseases that would ultimately affect the UK. But if they're not aligned with what Britain's goals are in the world, I'm sorry, no. And it doesn't matter about, you know, curbing the influence of China or whatever. Okay, fine, but that should be in our interest. That's the bottom line.
It is in our interest. Look, I think that we can be quite short.
How is
I think that we can be.
ecology in Nepal?
I think that look, I'm not going to defend every single pound of spending that goes to different projects. Clearly, some of these are more useful than others. But at the same time, I think we can have quite a short-sighted approach about some of the aid that we go to, about some of the reasons why we fund things. And actually, it is in our interest for other countries to be secure and to have thriving academia and all the rest.
That is the argument for it. That is the argument for it. People can disagree with that, fine, but that kind of is the argument for it. What about closer to home? When we have a look at what's going on in academia now, and, we've had £200,000 sent to a project researching gay pig masculinity, and that is apparently a term that certain people of a particular persuasion use. It's not actually about pigs, right? That resulted in a video called Oink that, just to describe it to you, involves what appears to be some kind of clay, a person's hands, and a phallus. Why are we sending £200,000 to that when we could be using that to help old people with their pensioners with their fuel pump?
Patrick, it's not either or. I think that you can have.
It is either.
No. I'm sorry. You can have a ruthlessly utilitarian approach to life in general, where you kind of think, is this serving the greater good? Is this helping a lot of people? Or we could say, look, I think the question that you're asking me is actually, should the UK government support the arts? Should it support the humanities? Should it support the humanities? Should it support niche?
Nobody can support.
No. I'm sorry
But what criticism that is levelled at foreign aid is that poor people in rich countries are supporting rich people in poor countries. And this is what we're talking about here, which we cannot have. So when I said, is it a priority? Can we afford it? The answer is no to both, particularly with...
I get Jonathan's point about it doesn't need to be an either-or, because there is a positive argument towards aid. However, it's now being phrased as an either-or, and it's right to, because this government had the audacity to keep moaning about a £22 billion black hole, whilst cutting, winter fuel payments for pensioners to literally save pennies in that regard.
The 0 point.
That's the point.
We send less aid. We send less aid abroad than we did at the start of the last Conservative government, because the Tories changed it from 0.7%
to our campaigning for it to come down because we couldn't afford it.
Okay, fine. Well, it's not about It's not about what you can afford. It's not a figure. It's a percentage. It's a percentage. So if we have lower GDP, then the amount we send will go down as well.
Economics of a madman. You either can afford or you can't afford. You're either in debt, which we are. Then we're giving money away, and we're paying interest on the debt we're giving away. Of course, you know whether you can afford something or not.
How does it cost about £500,000 to research the Europe that gay porn bill?
Well, look, again.
They also just say did gay.
Is that just a weekend in Berlin?
Because that's a shock. I don't know. But what is that?
Sounds like.
Where do they get these figures from? Random academics come up with, can I have £500,000 to research random stuff?
Yes, that's exactly how academia works. Not everything has to be measured in how useful it is to our individual lives. The full breadth. Look, Patrick, the full breadth of human knowledge and interests it's important for not only for the benefit of humanity, but also for the richness of the nation. Otherwise, we say that certain subjects should never be studied. It's legitimate to study ancient Greek, for example. If it's not useful for us.
Meanwhile, we have people. I mean, another big one for this, but we talk about this quite a lot, is about the fact it's like £1 billion, isn't it? I think that's going on asylum and support services in the northwest. Now, you've got a lot of very deprived areas in the northwest.
Yeah.
Okay, I rattled off a couple of them. There's no disrespect to people of Blackpool, for example. I used to go on holiday to Blackpool. I quite like it, but I think people would acknowledge that it's slightly deprived now. They could do with £1 billion, couldn't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the ultimate argument. Why? I mean, look. The reason why this has become an either-or is because if you're going to whinge about a £22 billion black hole, really, we shouldn't be sending money anywhere else. That's not essential to our national security interest and the interest of Britain. So this idea that, we can spend this money to research gay porn in Europe to further the interest of academia, that's great, but we shouldn't have to pay for it.
It's pennies, Esther.
No, but it's not about being pennies. Those pennies can be spent in Boston. I
think we can be doing both. I don't think that we have to choose between. It's not a zero-sum game.
Big black hole in our budget.
The national budget is not like a household.
We need an audit, Esther.
It is like a household.
It's not like a household. It's not like... Well, she was wrong. She was wrong.
I did say there was no oversight here of what's going on. And I do think people would say it is grotesque to see that this money is going abroad when people in the UK need the money. And there is that saying, charity begins at home, and it does, particularly in times of hardship.
So whenever people on the left support increasing spending on deprived communities, a lot of people on the right always shout it down and say that people should be self-reliant and not depending on redistribution of funds and government spending. So it always feels like you want to have it both ways.
No. I say I wouldn't want the people in the UK dependent on state and aid, and I don't think countries abroad should be, and that's what we should be doing, enabling people to be able to live a successful, fruitful life.
All right, OK. A lively start.